Nestle has been in Sri Lanka for over 100 years. We have been committed to enhancing the lives of the local community since the very beginning. Today, we are Sri Lanka's largest private sector buyer of fresh milk. As we look at the smiling faces of thousands of dairy farming families, we know that we have kept the promise we made 30 years ago. Nestle, empowering Sri Lankan dairy farmers.
A very good evening to you. This is News First Primetime News, coming to you live on NTV Sports and Shakti TV from our News First studios here in Colombo. I am Shaheen Jurangpati.
And I'm Rahna Farouk. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
10th budget of the Alliance government presented with many benefits. Another startling revelation over the purchase of coal to the North Chole power plant.
දැන් 2012 ඉඳන් නිසි ටෙන්ඩර් පටිපාටියකින් තොරව එකම පුද්ගලයෙක් ලංකාවට ගල්ලඟුරු ගෙන්නන එකම ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක්නේ.
Who approved the Geneva deal?
කවුද මේ කොන්ත්‍රාත්තු අනුමත කළේ? කියන රටට.
Child reported missing from Horana found in Anuradhapura. Sri Lankan medal tally at the Asian Para Games increases to 14.
And now for your stories in detail. The budget for the year 2015 with many benefits and relief was presented to the Parliament today. President Mahinda Rajapaksa presented the budget in Parliament in his capacity as the Minister of Finance.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the parliamentary complex for the budget speech this afternoon. In keeping with tradition, President Mahinda Rajapaksa entered the parliamentary chambers carrying the 2015 budget after the parliamentary proceedings began. Prior to reading out the budget for 2015, President Rajapaksa explained the progress the government had achieved thus far.
The desperate conditions that prevailed at the time in our rural society were well articulated by Honourable Minister Vishnu Soisa at the pre-budget consultations meeting held at Mondragala in June 2014, citing poems written by the well-known poet late Sagara Palansurya.
Wahale siduru ataring vehi bindu bere gomametic noga bima podi wala wal hari katumeti bittiye polowata baratere matigale vilad diya kandayai geya hari bommang velawata ඇති බව අවතාර අදහයි පිටිසරේ හැම ගැමියෙකු නෑර ළමයා පෙරේ පාර ගෙටේ යවිදින්නට බැරි වෙනකොට රැට.
Honourable Speaker, this is Mahinda Chintane Vision for a New Sri Lanka. It aims at taking urban facilities to the village while bringing the value system that prevails in the village to the urban life.
The President also commented on international interference to resolve the country's internal issues.
As we have consistently explained in this Parliament and at international fora, while appreciating the joint efforts of the international community to understand our domestic problems, there should be no international interference on national security, peace and development. Further, I cannot see the rationale to devolve the subjects of land and police powers to 9 separate provincial councils and how such a move could serve the best interest of law and order and the national economy. I therefore invite the Tamil National Alliance once again to move away from ideological barriers and work with the government towards finding a realistic political proposal that will make provincial councils more meaningful to promote development for the benefit of all our people. Instead of pursuing communally biased political perspectives, all of us must work together towards building a united community with strong economies in the regions while reaping benefits from the hard-won peace and reconciliation.
The President then spoke on the steps to take to eradicate poverty and also explained the financial policy framework of the state from 2015 to 2017.
The number of people living in below the national poverty line has declined from 15.7% in 2006-2007 to 8.7% in 2012-2013. Rural poverty has declined from 15.7% to 7.6%, while poverty in the plantation sector has declined from 32% to 10.9%. Around 500,000 public sector employees and a further around 100,000 unemployed graduates were recruited. Instead of reducing the public service to 300,000, we raised it to around 1.3 million. We are determined to raise a surplus in the revenue account gradually towards 2.5% of GDP and bring down the budget deficit to 3.8% by 2016 and 3% by 2017, underscoring our commitment to limit borrowings only for capital formation and not for consumption.
Relief was provided for the agricultural, industrial and service sectors through the budget for the year 2015.
The 2015 budget proposes to introduce a new salary mechanism from January next year, and the special allowances provided for state sector employees will be added to the basic salary of the state sector employees. Meanwhile, the minimum wage of a state sector employee is proposed to be increased to 15,000 rupees. The budget also proposed to increase the cost of living allowance by 2,200 rupees from January 2015. It has also been proposed to provide relief via the service constitutions of the Department of Posts and Department of Railways. It was proposed to formulate the salary arrears of pensioners in accordance with the year 2015 and also to provide them with an allowance of 2,500 rupees a month. It was also proposed to introduce a zero security loan system of up to 50,000 rupees for pensioners. Another proposal introduced in the budget was to provide motorcycles to postmen, provincial council teachers, police constables and sergeants at a concessionary rate. Meanwhile, the allowance for Divinagam beneficiaries is also proposed to be increased by the 2015 budget. Accordingly, the allowance for a family of 4 will be increased to 3,000 rupees, while the allowance for a family of 3 will be increased to 2,000 rupees, and other families will receive an allowance of 1,000 rupees. The scholarship allowance for students who pass the grade 5 scholarship examination will be increased from 500 rupees to 1,500 rupees. Meanwhile, the President in his capacity as the Minister of Finance proposed through the budget to increase the Mahapolis scholarship by 4,000 rupees and also proposed another 5,000 rupees as an allowance for Ayurvedic doctors. The benefits provided to the parents of fallen war heroes was increased to 1,000 rupees from 750 rupees, and this benefit was also proposed for the police service. The allowance presented to the July strikers was increased to 600 rupees, while the beneficiary age was dropped to 63.
Now, according to the budget proposal presented by President Mahinda Rajapaksa this afternoon, the budget deficit for the year 2015 stands at 521 billion compared to the 500 billion in 2014. This is an increase of 21 billion rupees. The total expenditure for the year 2015 stands at 2,210 billion rupees. This is an increase of 288 billion rupees compared to 2014. However, the total revenue of the government for next year stands at 1,689 billion rupees. The government intends to finance the budget deficit of 521 billion rupees through foreign and domestic financing. Foreign financing stands at 251 billion rupees, while domestic financing stands at 270 billion rupees.
Minister Patali Champika Ranawaka revealed today that the procurement of coal for the Noracholi power station has been undertaken without a proper tender procedure for the past 2 years. The minister convened a media briefing today following the revelation made by Power and Energy Minister Pavitra Vanyararachi in Parliament yesterday that a loss of about 1.5 billion rupees has been incurred through the procurement of coal. Minister Vanyararachi made this revelation in response to a question proposed by MP Dr. Harsha De Silva.
The total loss amounts to 1,507,044,116 rupees and 25 cents.
I think this must be the biggest fraud uncovered in recent times, a fraud of 1.5 billion.
මෙවැනි සිදුවීමක් 2012 අගභාගයේදී සිදු වුණා.
Such a situation arose in the latter part of 2012. There was no involvement on the part of the Ceylon Electricity Board or the Power and Energy Ministry. The Lanka Coal Company is owned by the CEB, the Finance Ministry, the Ports Authority and the Shipping Corporation. Coal is supplied for the Puttalam Power Plant under the name of the Lanka Coal Company. The transport of coal is undertaken by the Shipping Corporation. The CEB receives the annual requirement via the Lanka Coal Company. There's a small problem with the Puttalam Power Plant because coal cannot be unloaded there throughout the year. It is difficult to unload coal in the period between the 14th of April and the 14th of September. It takes about 7 to 10 days to unload coal from a ship. Thereby the CEB does not allow for coal to be brought in between April and September. But we found out later that in 2012 2 ships carrying coal had been brought in by the Shipping Corporation without the approval of the CEB. When the conditions were very windy, a problem arose with regard to unloading this coal. The first is that the coal had already been unloaded from 2 ships and they were told not to accept that coal. They were told not to unload the coal from the 3rd ship. Immediately it was decided that the coal would be purchased from the Nobel Company, which the CEB usually gets coal from, without getting another 5 ships. That was my order. I have it in writing. That is all we know of the matter. But later various persons intervened and sought advice from the Attorney General and engaged in various undertakings. Accordingly, I was made to remove the then chairman of the Lanka Coal Company. I ordered the group appointed thereafter to immediately conduct an investigation and take action. Meanwhile, I addressed several letters to the then High Commissioner for Indonesia and the CID. This happened on the 24th. On the 29th, I left that position. This is what transpired. If some irregularity has occurred, then it must be definitely be investigated and the persons responsible for it must be punished. Meting out punishment is what does not happen in the country. This has only cropped up 2 years later. The first coal tender was awarded in September 2012. There is a problematic situation surrounding this as well.
පිටිපස්සේ ඉන්න අය කවුද? ඒගොල්ලන්ට මොන විදිහේ ශක්තියින්ද තියෙන්නේ? කියන එක ගැනත් මම හිතන්නේ මේ පරීක්ෂණවල සොයා බැලිය යුතුයි.
Minister, it has been said that the loss is approximately 1.5 billion. The burden is in turn placed on the people. The people have the right to question this. What is your stance?
An even bigger problem is that a single individual has been supplying coal to Sri Lanka since 2012 without a proper tender procedure. Nobel Resources Limited. They have been supplying since 2009. I'm not sure who it is for certain. It would be good if you could find out.
Minister, you had asked for the first tender to be cancelled, for the 2 shipments to be cancelled and for the coal not to be unloaded from the 3rd ship. What were your reasons?
Back-to-back agreement.
The Shipping Corporation does not have a right to reach back-to-back agreements. The Shipping Corporation was bound to supply coal to the Lanka Coal Company. This should be done via Nobel. We are not prepared to accept shipments brought in via ad hoc agreements struck with others.
Agreement එකක් ගහලා මෙහෙම ගේන ගේනව පිළිගන්න අපි ලෑස්ති නෑනේ.
I do not know whether the political authorities are involved, but I will tell you something. The persons who are in key positions are corrupt white-collar criminals.
සුදු කරපටි අපරාධකාරෝ white collar criminals ලා. ඒගොල්ලෝ ඊටාම දූෂිතයි.
UNP MP Dr. Harsha De Silva commented further on the procurement of coal for the Norochale power plant in conversation with Nadim Majid on our special segment Newsline Today.
Dr. De Silva, why did it take so long for this to come up? Because this happened in 2012.
Yes, in fact the question was asked some time back. I asked the question some time back, several months ago, but the answer was never given. As usual, they got postponed, but suddenly yesterday the government not only gave me the answer to the question I asked, but a lot more. Even I was flabbergasted. The guys on the government side were looking at each other in absolute, surprise. Because 1,500 million fraud is not a small fraud.
Can these government representatives continue to say things like, this didn't happen during my time, this was before my time? Yeah. It seems to have become a pattern.
Now the issue goes beyond that one shipment. The issue is, what is the procedure that we have adopted to purchase coal? You see, now coal is $1 billion business, because from oil we moved to coal to generate electricity. So half of our electricity is now generated in Norachole using coal. So importation of coal is very lucrative. Now, who gets these coal import tenders? How are they given? Do they follow the accepted tender procedure? If not, why not? Have tenders been suddenly cancelled the day before they were supposed to close? And I hope with this expose of this fraud yesterday, the government, the responsible parties will start digging into it and looking at the whole coal purchase program.
Doesn't the expenditure of these funds, public funds, have to be approved by Parliament?
By and large, they are responsible to Parliament to cope, because these are entities fully owned by the state and meaning by the people.
Dr. De Silva, I'd also like to ask you, now there's also this accusation that all of these allegations of fraud are coming like a chain. The Geneva Gate situation, and now this point that you have brought up, just on the cusp of a presidential election.
Sure.
What do you make of that?
There's a lot of fluidity, shall I put it that way, that nobody really knows how this thing is going to settle.
Moving from one controversy to another surrounding the refurbishment of the official residence of the former permanent representative in Geneva. Now, Newsfirst submitted a query to the Office of the Attorney General of Switzerland regarding the matter yesterday. Now, responding to our query, a spokesperson said that the investigation into 10 persons for alleged money laundering, extortion and participation in a criminal organization is still ongoing. Now, to learn more about this matter, we now cross over to Newsfirst Joel Artskun to the Newsfirst Center. Joel, it's over to you.
Well, thank you, Shine. Now, that's right. The Janata Vimukta Peramuna continues to question as to who granted approval for the payment to be made on the contract to refurbish the official residence of the Sri Lankan permanent representative to Geneva. The JVP challenges the government to conduct a proper investigation into this matter.
This contract is worth 18 million. It is not a small amount. It was worth 119,250 Swiss francs. The Swiss francs is worth more than 140 rupees now. It is about 143. When you make the calculation, it comes to about 18 million. The first payment was made by the 22nd of December 2009. It was made without any security. So this contract has been awarded on the basis of friendship and loyalty. Ture Raja too has confirmed this. Conduct an investigation and tell us who it was that was residing in a house that was under renovation. We have a major suspicion here. The payment has been made to Ture Raja via her husband. We suspect whether they put some paint on the walls and then took 18 million. Who approved this contract? Tell this to the country. On what basis was the contract awarded? Why was it renovated? Tell the country who granted approval for bills like this. Tell the country who approved the payment.
I really find it difficult to believe that during the short period in which he was the chargé, in between my departure and Mrs. Shenuka Sanviratna's incumbency, that Mr. Jawahar would have taken it upon himself to do something quite as large as renovate the official residence of the ambassador and permanent representative to the UN in Geneva. The period in which Mr. Jawahar served as chargé was a relatively short one. I left in the first week of August. I was back in Sri Lanka, and Shenuka took over in the middle of November. So that's really 3 months. So the question that arises is, who gave the instruction to Mr. Jawahar? Somebody must ask him, who gave the instruction, on what authority, on what basis did he decide to renovate the entirety of the official residence? The Foreign Ministry statement says that the approval was granted on the 5th of November of 2009. Who granted that approval? Now, the audit report says that proper procedure was not followed. Now, proper procedure includes a tech evaluation committee, which visits the residence and decides that this or that has to be done. There obviously has not been a tech committee. Then on what basis did the Foreign Ministry approve this tender? The Foreign Ministry usually you have to send 3 quotations down to the Foreign Ministry with the backup documentation, and the Foreign Ministry then decides on which tender should be accepted. None of these procedures seem to have been followed. So one wonders really what happened, because the outgoing ambassador, namely myself, certainly didn't indicate to Mr. Java that he should renovate the residence. There's a clear security dimension here. So what happened to the report?
On the 21st of October, the Minister of External Affairs, Professor G.L. Peiris, issued a statement exonerating the External Affairs Secretary of any wrongdoing, noting that allegations that the contract was provided to a personality involved with the LTTE are baseless. The Minister notes that the Sri Lanka Mission in Geneva obtained the services of a company owned by P.T. Tureraja in Zurich in November 2009 to refurbish the official residence of the permanent representative. The Minister notes that on the 12th of April 2012, the head of Chancery at the mission in Geneva, Yu Jauhar, had made an inquiry from Pierre-Yves Higuanin of the Swiss Federal Intelligence Service regarding the person who was awarded the contract. According to Professor G.L. Peiris, Higuanin had responded on the 27th of April 2012 that there was no indication that the individual in question was involved with the LTTE. Newsfirst submitted a query to the Office of the Attorney General of Switzerland regarding the matter yesterday. Responding to our query, Janet Barmer, spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General of Switzerland, noted that the investigation into 10 persons for alleged money laundering, extortion and participation in a criminal organization is still ongoing. Barmer noted that no further news on this case would be communicated until the indictment in the 2011 case is released.
Well, now JVP North Central Provincial Councillor Vasantha Samarasinghe says that an expeditious investigation must be conducted into the Geneva transaction, just as an investigation is being conducted into the importation of coal for the Norocholi power station.
We saw that Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi had suddenly said that a fraud of about 1.5 billion rupees had occurred in the importation of coal and that the CID is conducting an investigation. This is a new approach. We commenced it. Conduct investigations into crimes, corruption and fraud. At the same time, expedite the investigation into the audit report on the refurbishment of the official residence in Geneva. It has been 2 years since the report was compiled, and even though 2 years have passed since the report was submitted to President Mahinda Rajapaksa, it has not been investigated. Why? We call on Minister G.L. Peiris to entrust the investigation to the CID as well, and to immediately investigate not only the LTTE connection but also the misuse of public funds.
Well, the Newsfirst has been closely monitoring this situation. You too could keep a tab on this story by following our Twitter handle #GenevaGate. For now, back to the studio.
Back to news from the Parliament. Members of the government and the opposition commented on the budget after the budget was presented to Parliament today.
I can
say that the 2015 budget is a people-friendly budget which rewards the people who are committed to strengthening the economy. Instead of a budget, what we witnessed today was a bribe. We can call this National Bribery Day. They are bribing the people out of fear of facing an election. If they are calling relief given to the people a bribe, then we have no problem with that interpretation. There is no reason for the people who asked for employees' wages to be increased to speak this way once wages are increased. I think even those in the opposition who have a heart are happy. Everyone in the government is happy. We hope for two key factors through the budget. One was that the direction of this country's economy should be turned towards strengthening manufacturing and industry. This is strategically ingrained in this budget. What was implemented today was a document which leaves the people stranded and puts more and more pressure on them. Such a budget has not been presented in the history of the world. It is a golden budget which is good for both of us.
ප්‍රාතිහාර්ය වගේ අයවැයක් මේක ඔයාලා අපි කාටවත් හොඳ අයවැයක් පැලේ වෙලේ පිලේ අගුවේ මාළු ලෑල්ලේ මාළු ආඩියේ කමතේ හැමෝටම හොඳ අයවැයක්.
This is not doable. So essentially this is a fraud. This is a fraudulent pie in the sky, give everything to everyone kind of budget. We are not going to support this budget.
This seems to be a sunshine budget aimed at an election, and many goodies are being offered. So all round, I believe this appears to be a sunshine budget aimed at an election.
Now, after the budget, which is a matter of national importance, was presented today, most politicians spoke to the media and expressed their views. However, Ranil Wickremesinghe played a different card. Despite being a leader of the opposition, he absconded the media, kept mum and rushed out. Here's what happened this evening at Parliament. Also making headlines this evening, a 9-year-old boy who disappeared with a monk in Horana was found in the Jetavanaramaya stupa in Anuradhapura this morning.
Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohan stated the child will be returned to his parents after he is produced before the Anuradhapura Magistrates Court. The young monk involved in the incident has been handed over to the Horana police for further investigations.
Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohan stated that investigations commenced after the grandmother of the child lodged a complaint with the police. The child went missing when the grandmother and him were on their way to a private bank in Horana. Lochin's grandmother said that the young monk, who is incidentally their relative, arrived with a group of people.
There is a complaint lodged against you saying that you kidnapped this child. He is a 10-year-old child. You could have spoken to his parents and brought him. If I kidnapped him, then why would I take him to show the temple and linger in places where there are a lot of people? I only wanted to take him sightseeing the whole day. I would like to thank Sirasa TV and all the institutions who helped us.
I would like to thank the Sirasa TV network and the police for helping us to find our son.
The monthly meeting of the Kolonnava Urban Council was convened today. A tense situation was reported during the meeting.
This tense situation was reported when allegations were raised against the malfunctioning of the gully bowser of the Kolonnava Urban Council. The vice chairman and a UPFA member voiced the protest atop a table. Later they left the council session. Although the chairman of the council, Ravindra Udeshanta, attempted to stop the vice chairman from leaving the premises, his attempts were futile.
They have left their duties. We cannot wait to see what they will do. If we come across any details that a member has misbehaved, we will take steps against him.
The following incidents were recorded by our cameras over the recent past.
A public petition campaign demanding that the leader of Democratic Party, Sarath Fonseca, be given the right to vote commenced in Kindivella today.
A group of politicians from the Democratic Party participated at the inauguration of the public petition campaign, which aims to collect 1 million signatures.
What they have done is truly astounding. They have done it out of fear to prevent him from contesting the presidential election. You may follow different political parties and ideologies, but forget that for a moment. Forget that and think for a moment about how just it is to deprive the leader who rescued this country of his right to vote.
They are trying to remove the most talented opponent, the person who can defeat them and keep him at home so they can run the race alone. We must rally against this.
There is no law for us and there is no justice. When I say us, I refer to the people. This is a common factor for all ordinary citizens. The struggle that we have initiated today is a common struggle for all of us.
Chief Opposition Whip of the Western Provincial Council Harshana Rajakaruna expressed his views on the budget at an event held in Dompe.
This budget will only provide temporary satisfaction to the people as it is aimed at the upcoming presidential election. I believe that if finances are allocated for education, which will assist in shaping the future and create a society that leads us towards this path, we can create the future we hope for instead of this temporary happiness.
An event was held to distribute stationery items for children in the Dompe electorate.
The 69th UN Day celebration was held in Colombo today. During the event, early findings from the 2014 country report on MDG or the Millennium Development Goals set in 2000 with targets for 2015 were shared by the Executive Director of the Institute of Policy Studies, Dr. Saman Kelagama.
The event saw the participation of many distinguished guests, including resident co-coordinator for the UN Subine Nandi and heads of UN agencies of Sri Lanka and heads of representatives from the diplomatic missions. The policy includes 30 targets, out of which Sri Lanka has managed to successfully achieve 26 of these targets.
One reason for this remarkable performance of Sri Lanka in regard to achievement of MDGs is the heavy investment successive governments since independence made on social welfare programs, in particular education and health. When you look at it from the district level, there are still a few pockets where poverty levels need to be addressed with policy intervention.
Addressing regional disparities is another challenge that requires focus and attention. Recently, for example, the poverty rate in Monaragala increased despite the data showing a relatively high level of participation. Now, this would suggest, oversimplifying, a high proportion of working poor there. Likewise, while the data suggests that recovery in many of the social sectors is underway in the north and the east, post-oil situations, we also see the proportion of employed people living below the poverty line, while low in certain areas is high in others, suggesting a need for sustained attention to livelihood and decent work promotion and market development in those areas. Looking forward, we note that Sri Lanka has made tremendous progress towards achieving the Millennium Development Goals and is ready now to progress to the next level of development and an even more brighter and prosperous future.
The 35th National Conference of Chartered Accountants was inaugurated in Colombo yesterday with the presence of Sri Lanka's corporate glitterati. This year's conference explores the inspiring theme Rethink to Revive. The two-day conference will come to a close tomorrow.
The event was inaugurated under His Excellency Jeff Deutsch, the South African High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. High-profile corporate personalities, government officials, renowned accounting and finance professionals and foreign panelists attended the conference.
The vision of the private sector is in line with the government plans. I also wish to quote the Chief Minister of the Northern Province. I quote, "The government and the people of this country should understand that internal self-determination will lead the country to be united without division. We accept the country's sovereignty. The Sinhalese people have to remember that we Tamils are also equally proud, like them, as being citizens of Sri Lanka. They must also have in their mind that we are proud as joint owners and not as leaseholders." Unquote. It is clear in our journey to make the aspirations and vision of the government, the private sector and the people of Sri Lanka a reality, we need to build a united Sri Lanka and diffuse polarization.
The aim of the conference is to educate professionals to convert challenges into opportunities by rethinking existing business models and conventional wisdom to cater the growing demands and challenges.
Celebrating lessons learned from the world's most admired organization. An event under this theme was organized in Colombo today, hosted by Scott Friedman, an international humorist, speaker and author. The event saw the participation of a distinguished gathering and was organized by the American Chamber of Commerce, or AmCham, Sri Lanka, in partnership with the International Speakers Bureau. The host of the event, Scott Friedman, is an internationally sought-after author and an employee engagement expert.
Good enough. I'm smart enough. And I don't care if people.
Whether he wins or loses elections, he remains the opposition leader. 77 million rupees of the nation's wealth is allocated for him. Has he fulfilled the responsibilities of his position? Members of the working committee, who should be ashamed? From tomorrow.
Sri Lankan athletes brought a pride to the nation once again by clinching 3 medals at the Asian Para Games 2014.
That's right, Rana. Now, Sri Lanka was able to bag 14 medals at the Asian Para Games, which concluded today.
The Asian Para Games were held over 6 days in Incheon, South Korea. Captain of the Sri Lanka para athlete team, Pradeep Sanjay, was able to clinch bronze in the T47 400-meter event. He was also able to bag silver in the T47 800-meter event. Sanka Kumara was able to clinch silver in the F44 discus throw, while Lionel Premasiri won bronze in the T44 400-meter men's event. Sri Lanka was able to bag 14 medals in total, including 1 gold medal, 6 silver medals and 7 bronze medals at the close of the Asian Para Games. Sri Lanka was ranked 16th in the overall medal table. China came in first place, bagging 174 gold medals, while Korea came in second, clinching 72 gold medals. Japan came in third and were able to clinch 38 gold medals.
You took over the challenge in the international sporting arena on behalf of us. You won the hearts of Asia. You made the Sri Lankan flag fly high. Sons and daughters of Sri Lanka, we are proud of you. Sons and daughters of Sri Lanka who won gold, silver and bronze medals at the Asian Para Games, we are proud of you.
And that's a wrap of News First Primetime News. Thank you very much for watching. For the News First team, I'm Shaheen Jurangpati.
And I'm Rahna Farooq. Thank you for watching. Good night.